In today's Slide Makeover video podcast, I want to share with you a makeover that I did recently, and all these makeovers are based on the ideas in my book, The Visual Slide Revolution. Here's our original slide. And the big challenge here, as it is with many slides unfortunately, is that it's really hard to tell what the key point is. When I look at this, I actually find that there are 4 points leading to a conclusion. Let me show you what I'm talking about. First here, they're talking about that there's going to be a future shortage of workers. Well, that's a very important point that we need to get through to the decision makers. That needs its own slide. Second point here is that the infrastructure is getting too old to support the business. Again, an important point that we need to make to the decision makers. Third, there is a risk to not being in compliance or in control of our continuity of our systems. So for some reason we can't keep on top of it because we have so much to try to do. And then the fourth point here is that we've got all this complexity that's causing inefficiency, so there's not standards in place that we can rely on. And when we look at each of those four, they're very important points. They should be a slide on their own, but what are they all leading to? Well, unfortunately, and I'm seeing this more and more often, the actual key conclusion is down at the bottom of the slide. This is unfortunate because it's not the headline, it's not at the top of the slide, and the decision maker might miss it. So what we want to do is we want to look at creating a total of actually 5 slides, one for each of the key points, and then a summary slide that says, okay, each of these key points leads to this particular conclusion. So that's how we're going to redesign it, but the question then becomes, let's go back to our original slide, what visuals should I use? How do I find the clues in the text that they're using to know what visuals I should use? Let me show you some of the clues that I found here. First clue here says 89,000 short out of 600,000 total. When I see A out of B, it's a portion or a share. That leads me to think of a pie chart. So we're going to turn that into a pie chart. Another clue here in the next point, aging infrastructure. Now obviously there's some standard we're measuring it against to know that it's older than we want it to be. So if we've measured it, then we're comparing numeric data. That would suggest to me some sort of a graph, maybe a column chart perhaps. Let's look at our third point. Many networks and data centers to manage. So in some way we have to convey in a visual that each year we have a lot to try to manage, in fact too much to manage. So we need to show that some way visually, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that a little later. And our final point down here, we've got all these statistics that are just in bullet point format. We want to break them out into individual statistics that will show each of those points on its own. So what we thought about is we're going to have 4 slides. We talked about the visuals. So let me show you how we transform this one slide into a series of 5 slides, and I'll show you how they're built as we go through this. Slide number 1. First thing we do is we create a headline that's going to capture the key idea. Shrinking IT labor pool will leave GCIT with a shortage of workers. You know, analysts are saying that in 5 years we're going to have a shortage of workers. That pie chart should be full, but it's got a gap. And what they tell us is that in 5 years we're going to have a shortage of 89,000 IT workers in the country. And us being an IT organization, of course, we're going to suffer because we're going to have a shortage of workers internally and hard time finding workers when we do want to hire. So that's our first key point. What I've done here is I've created the pie chart. I added a photo in to make it more meaningful because it's people and you see some of the people are missing, and a call out to make sure that we're clear on what that missing wedge is in reality to our organization. That's slide number 1. Slide number 2. Again, key headline, average age of infrastructure causing high maintenance costs. Well, there must be some standard that we're measuring against. So the first thing I build on the slide, and I say, okay, now you know that our target of the average age of our equipment in each of the areas is 3 years. In our latest study, this is what we found. All 4 of our key infrastructure areas are over that average age of 3 years. This is causing a problem, higher maintenance costs and failure rates. Okay, so what I did here is the call out is the target and the dashed line, and then I build the chart on, the column chart on, to show, gee, you know what, we're above that target range. Second slide, key point, we clearly see all of our average ages are above that target line. Third slide, business continuity at risk because too many networks and data centers. Here's how I would present this. This year, in 2008, we have to do continuity testing on 140 data centers. When you break that down, what that calculates out to is every single week we would have to be doing business continuity testing on 3 data centers. There's no way we have the staff to be able to do that. So what happens is we have to pick and choose which data centers get continuity testing, and those that don't have a higher risk because we're not sure whether the plans are in place to handle potential risks. So we had to come up with a way of showing this visually, showing the magnitude of this problem. If you say 140 data centers over a year, that's a somewhat abstract number. It doesn't put it in context for the audience. So what I did is I built the 140 data centers over the calendar, so you had that idea, but then I had to break it down to say it's 3 per week, and here's the challenge that gives us. So our third slide. Our fourth key point, inefficiency of current infrastructure costs us $300 to $500 million a year. Did you know that we have 144 separate networks in this organization? That's a huge number. There are over 315,000 non-standard desktops. That doesn't even count the standard desktops. Think about how many standard desktops we have. There are 120,000 servers running on our networks. A huge, huge number to try to manage. And there are over 120 help desks that people can call. How do they know which one to call? How do those help desks share information? All of that causes a lot of inefficiency, and our latest estimates are $300 to $500 million a year in wasted cost. So what did I do here? I took each of those individual statistics and I wanted to talk about each one and make the point how significant it was. I separated them visually in different text boxes with different background colors just to give it some visual variety and give them an idea of kind of like notes being stuck up on a board. So that was our fourth slide. Our fifth slide pulls it all together where we say, okay, you know what, the status quo is just not sustainable. And what this means is it's a great opportunity to grow our IT shared services. We've talked about how the shortage of IT workers is going to impact the organization. Add to that the point we made about the infrastructure being much older than what our standard is, that's causing problems. Our business continuity risks that we're taking on because we can't actually do the continuity testing at each of our sites every year. And finally, the inefficiency that we've got from the way we've organized our equipment. When we add all of those together, the clear conclusion is that there's a great opportunity for our IT shared services organization to bring some structure to this area. So what we did is we took an overloaded text slide with multiple points on it, broke it into 4 individual slides to each of the key points, and summed it up with this point to the decision makers that tells them, here are each of the points, the conclusion is opportunity for IT shared services, which is reinforced by the headline of the slide. Hopefully that slide makeover has helped you see how you can really make some significant changes in the slides that you're creating. For more information, you can go to Visual Slide Revolution, learn more about the book, the ideas it contains. To talk to me and learn more about my training and consulting, you can go to ThinkOutsideTheSlide.com. This has been Dave Parody. Good luck on your future presentations.